Hello, everyone. Welcome and welcome to Kent and David. Thank you so much for being here, both of you. I want to give a little background on Kent and David and why they're here and why I asked them to be here. It was a little bit unusual. They actually signed up to be participants. They signed up to listen to this symposium, and Kent wrote to me about his perspective on the purpose of the symposium, and it touched me so deeply that I wrote back to him, and we had a bit of an email exchange. And the more I learned about both of them, I realized, wow, I would really like them to be speakers in this symposium. So that is the one and only time that's happened, and anyway, is pretty remarkable. And I'm really, really glad to have you both here. So the general topic that we're going to be focusing on probably is your perspective on the healing work that you do in general, and then also your perspective on the healing needed within the queer community specifically, and your perspective on the trauma within the queer community, and we'll possibly weave in there also your perspective on gender in general. So I'm just going to read your bios so people can hear a little more about you. So Kent, always a sensitive. This is in, okay. It's in first person. I'm gonna switch it into third person. It'll take me a second. Always a sensitive, Kent began formal training in energy healing with Reverend Ron Moor in 1987. After becoming David's client, he apprenticed with him and eventually became his partner in this work. Since the year 2000, Kent has offered astrology consultations and is currently a member of the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School, where he is observing a new and exciting astrology paradigm. Additionally, he was ordained in 1989 in the Order of Melchizedek. Oh my goodness. Melchizedek. What is that word? Okay, by Reverend Daniel Chesbro, and Kent also holds an MFA in creative writing from Fairfield University. So then David, since 1980, David has used inquiry and biofeedback on himself to help identify and release his own energetic blocks, barriers, and false beliefs. Then, after much practice, he went on to develop the skill of scanning a client's body, resulting in being able to see a hologram of their energy flows or sticky energy patterns. He describes the patterns and connects them with specific traumas, false beliefs, and hangups. And together with the client, he can dialogue and understand what and where these ideas and attitudes come from. The ideas they previously operated from, and now make new decisions in the present time to aid their survival and increase their happiness. David may facilitate the process with hands-on energy clearing, and usually people feel lighter and relieved at this point with the new understanding and perspective they gain. Wonderful. Yeah, so there's so many layers to all of this. So many layers to all of who you are and your background. But why don't we start with, what is this healing work that you each do in the world? And what is important to you about it? And yeah, what would you like us to know?
Well, as you mentioned, Martha, I became we got together when I became David's client. And I had done some of my own healing work and learned it, but I learned very quickly to trust him. And this was an in-person hands-on session. And just over a couple of years then, as we got together as a couple, we started evolving this energy work, recognizing that trauma lives in the body. And it's something that we all have. We go through life and we bump into things, and then we create these belief systems, not consciously, but just to deal with the world. And And so, as David and I worked together, I noticed that layers and layers would come off, right? So it's not just a one-shot deal. And I was lucky enough to be first the client, like I said, and then David and I started working together in person with clients in California, and evolved a partnership together. And it seemed to be really helpful for people. And then when we moved from California, we had to develop a Zoom capability. That was before COVID ever came along. And learned for me to be the surrogate, the person on the screen reach out energetically to me, or we just connect energy wise. And then David would read your energy, and he can see the holographic kind of pattern of the chi, of the energy, and also where it's getting hung up. And then so he would work on me, physically work on me, but he'd actually be working on you. And so we would develop this whole way of moving your energy, but also dialoguing with you. It isn't like you're just sitting there, heal me. No, we're going back and forth with the person, and they're saying, well, that resonates. No, that isn't quite it. Could be past life stuff that comes up. It could be present life stuff. Could be intergenerational trauma. It could be, there's a lot of different possibilities. But David, you want to pitch in here? What I've missed? And
you pretty much covered it all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Part of it is the seeing the energy, and part of it is going back and forth with the person. It's very dynamic and organic, and it's going to unfold as a way to, because it is very dynamic. It's the person's guides and teachers. It's our guides and teachers. It's a process to reveal what in the moment comes to the surface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. And I know that your clients are not only people who identify as queer, as something other than heterosexual cisgender. I realize that, but you also have talked about having a pretty acute sense of the trauma that does exist, in particular in the queer community. And I would love to hear more of your perspective on what that trauma, I know from personal experience, from professional experience as a therapist, I know my own perspective on all of it, but I would love to hear what is particularly alive for you. I'll just say, when you reached out to me, Kent, on the survey, for participants, you said something along the lines of, one of your greatest hopes for this symposium is to have the voice of the queer community more present. Or you said something like, the way you worded it was so touching to me. It said something like, those of us in the queer community want to contribute with our voices. It was a very proactive, positive way of phrasing it. And anyway, I would just love to hear more, what is that voice that you feel like is wanting to come through you, either of you, both of you, and specifically around the trauma that exists, or any. Yeah.
Excuse me. Why don't we go back a little bit and in picking up gender,
Okay.
and then see how that fits into using trauma with gender, and how to relieve that problem, which seems to be on people's minds.
Awesome. That's great. Go for it.
So I look at gender. There's another speaker that says a soul has no gender. And I really resonate with that. We're using a physical body, and our body is, some mental, gender is somewhat mental, but it's also how we perceive energy flows is how I look at it. So it's not a static thing. It's not fixed. I look at it as we should be versatile. That's would be more of a fluid gender, I would call it. You can pick anything you want and use that as a static, but you know, a static could be changeable too as it goes along the spectrum. I would think people would be like to have, you know, their avatar experience everything. So that means it's different flows, and the blocks and barriers to experiencing those flows is what I'm trying to get to and look at with the person, find out what that flow is and how it can be changed. But I'm also using the body as a mechanism to find out what it really is. So it's the body speaking to me with all these patterns that may not be flowing, and I'm identifying what those look like, explaining what I'm picking up, what those might look like, or what they kind of read me. They kind of talk to me. It's like talking to me.
Yeah.
So, and then we bring that up, and usually those things are, I'm able to speak it in a way that the person says, well, that's, I wouldn't have known how to say it, but that seems to be right on. That seems to indicate to what it is. But they didn't quite have the words to put it into focus, right?
Right. Beautiful.
So that's what I'm looking at, is getting the chi and looking at the flows in the body. And yes, it may be a balance of gender, whether it's with the second chakra, the third chakra, the beingness. We might have to manage the perspective of what's the male protecting the female, say, or you're using too much female, or you're suppressing one gender type because you're trying to be expressing it, maybe the feminine flow more, or the masculine flow. Because like when I worked with Kent, as a transgender person, we had to balance it so he could, while he was putting the male flow there, we had to acknowledge the female flow to be just as important as the male flow. And acknowledge that as part of the whole beingness and the whole personality. That would make it advantageous to have both those coming through, I would think.
Wow, I love that.
So that's kind of my idea of gender and how that fits in. Kent, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, Martha, when I was writing that to you, because you know, it's not just us transgender folks. I started out in a female body, born in a female body, and it took me till I was 46 years old to really be in an environment where I could feel free to express my inner identified male self. And so, but it's interesting because everybody, whether they're, you know, if you're cisgender, comfortable in your body that you were born in, comfortable if you're born in a male body and being a male, etc., you still have female and male flows, or yin and yang. Some people prefer that terminology. But regardless, everybody's got that, and balancing that is a real, it's an art, you know, as far as that in self-awareness. And it's always going to be changing. It's not like anybody gets that perfect, but just to be aware of that in this culture that is really determined to put it into a binary. You know, you're in this box or you're in that box. So I'd say a good share of the cisgender population is not comfortable. If they really were able to get in touch, you know, are not comfortable being in a box either. And so you don't have to be non-binary to have this different experience in becoming more aware of that masculine and feminine flow. And like David said, in my case, that was actually kind of a trauma thing. You know, I found that because I had suppressed my male identity for so long, just because of my environment, growing up in South Dakota was not a conducive environment in the 60s and 70s.
Or even now, I'm gonna guess. I bet you now it's not either.
No, it's not. I have family that still lives in South Dakota, and it's a very oppressive environment generally, especially politically, but just in general, culturally, it happens to be that way. And so it's, for me, suppressing that male energy and that male identity in order to fit in as the female that I appeared to be, that created itself trauma and oppression. And so when David started working with me, it was like working with that whole energy flow where I'd overcompensated with bringing out this masculine energy and then clamp down on the feminine energy. So when we work with transgender people, we've worked with several transgender individuals, and it's magnified, it's like, so balancing that is often the big share of what we do. However, it's these days, I guess, a lot of what's going on is that clamping down again and that oppression, and we're seeing it in not just the queer community, but of course the whole abortion issue. Do we own our bodies? Do we get to say what happens with our bodies? So we're in a really challenging time now, and then I can get into later, just what queer people have to offer, what I think we have to offer. But just want to get back to David, if you have any other thoughts about what you have experienced, working with trans folk in general, and just if you had anything more, I don't know if you do, or anything more to say about the different flows of the chi, yin and yang.
Right. I guess part of my work with somebody is getting them, I kind of work with them to get flows going, right? So and it could be a masculine or feminine, and getting them in contact with their body to feel that flow, finding what it feels like and what the stop might be, whether it's wherever it is located in the body, wherever the stop is, and getting them in touch with those flows so they have control of that again. So it's back in touch with themselves. So that's what I'm looking for. And transgender is just no different. Making them feel comfortable with their body and the flows that they can exhibit and express to other people. That's what I say. And of course, those trauma is partly gender in this case.
Yeah.
So where it's squeezed one way, being gay or being trans or just being in flux. I mean,
or any other,
right, or anything else. That's a trauma, which has to be looked at on its own if it's a barrier that a person has. So that would come up when I'm working with people and working on people with KET. Him as the surrogate and him being transgender, it's great because he can be both flows. And he can get the male flow. He knows what it's like to be female and male, and works together. So he's a great medium for that. That allows me to use him as to work on, which is connected to the person that when we do the work. So
wonderful.
Another aspect that comes up, I'm sorry, Martha, were you going to say something?
No, please. I can ask other questions, but please just go for whatever you want to say. Please do it.
What kind of comes up too a lot is, David, as you were talking about energy flows, often because of trauma, we are not aware that we're not grounding with the earth. So sending energy down into the earth, often, David, on me, on just about anybody, it'll be where we're not sending energy down into the earth from our feet or our first chakra. We're just sort of, the trauma has got us, so we're hyper vigilant, and we're just kind of like, you might say, ready to run. And so that then we're not able to ground. And Mother Earth is the one, the nurturing source, bringing that earth energy up. And David can spot, you know, like, oh, wow, your left leg is just not in contact with the earth at all. And so then that person is missing nourishment and missing that ongoing contact, like you said, David, with the person's body. A lot of that in the trauma in our present civilization is just being out of touch with the earth. So that's a major aspect of our work too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mentioned before we started recording that I, in my own work history, I got my master's in clinical social work in 2001, and I spent the majority of 20 years as a therapist and a social worker working with trauma specifically. But I also for 5 years was in the middle of that was a massage therapist. And so I still have some massage clients, and I do a lot of energy work, and I can, similar to you, David, I can see people's energy systems and all of that. And I get shown in my prayers, I get shown visions of, you know, the healing needed on this planet and with people. And one of the key things that keeps coming through for me that I think is very relevant for this symposium is I keep getting this image lately of, essentially, it's like, here is source, here is the planet Earth. Like, so the light of source is like a ball here and is parallel to the planet Earth here. And then it's like this flow of light that connects into source and connects, like holds the planet Earth in this orb of light kind of. And it's all, the message I feel is just the need to come back into the natural state of balance and harmony that is existence. And on this planet, we have so much trauma for eons. We've had so much trauma that like we're just kind of out of whack. Like the goal, I had this vision like 2 days ago, and I kept getting told, you know, by the spirit world, yeah, you need to remember the balance, remember this natural state of being now, do it now. It was like, felt very urgent. And yeah, anyway, so I resonate very much with everything you're saying, and I see it and I feel it similarly. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So having that vision, so with the symposium, it feels like you're pulling everything together.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing to create this whole idea of healing and working. And it's really great now because you're labeling as gender, but it's actually about flow.
Yes, that's exactly
right.
Yeah. I know.
So yeah, so you're using gender as kind of like the tagline.
There you go. Yeah.
That people can grab onto. Oh, it's gender. Oh, yes. Because they don't know about flow necessarily.
Yes.
It's weird how people don't necessarily realize, well, flow is the most basic thing, is being flowing, not fixed, you know.
Yep.
So
that's exactly right. Thank you. Yes.
Right. So that's what you're pulling in. You're pulling in all these people to do all this work and rising the whole consciousness.
Yeah.
And frequency.
Yeah. There you go.
Right. And that's the spin at the top.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're getting that spin at the top. I can see that.
Wow. Thank you.
Right? That's the spin at the top. That's the crown chakra, but it's actually bigger. It's like the crown chakra of Earth.
Yes. Oh my. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Right.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. Right. And we're all kind of the viewpoints, because it's all about viewpoints. We're the unique viewpoints. You could call it, well, Mother Earth's nurture us. The crown chakra has all these points to view, which is a connection to all of us that are able to access that and that are plugged in
Mm.
that crown chakra.
Oh, wow.
That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
And we're all vibrating, and that's what you're looking to do.
There. Yes, that's right. Thank
Right.
you. Being.
We're all vibrating to do. And as we vibrate,
Mhm.
the Mother Earth will pick up on that.
Yes. And
And,
yes.
and support us in that freeing process.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Thank
We're
you.
all having a unique viewpoint. Really, this is also it's kind of moving us out of the matrix. This is what this is all about, because that's kind of like the lowest common denominator, right? It's the matrix. And that's kind of the enforcement, right? So it's moving us out of that enforcement into changing our viewpoint so that we're flexible in our viewpoint. So we're all multiple viewpoints, and as multiple viewpoints, we're all exchanging those viewpoints. That's what makes us unique, and it also which binds us all together. Right? And it's instantaneous.
And it also feels to me on an energetic level that, like, when we are sharing these viewpoints, it's like it's a medicine that helps us get unstuck from some of the stuckness you guys are talking about, like that right. In order to return to that flow, there's just energy stuck in all kinds of ways for us, and one way of helping to release that feels to me like it is having these open conversations, hearing, oh yeah, this side, and then this side, and then that perspective, and we could think about it like this, but we could also think about that. For me, that's what's happening for me.
Right. Well, isn't it weird? It's here we have politics, which is all stuck viewpoints. And look at the trauma. Look at the trauma that it's creating, and the polarity that it's creating. It's always, but that's the matrix, isn't it? It's the battle of the matrix, right? Because it's the right telling us that we need to be stuck in the old viewpoints, and carrying and using that identity and carrying that on with that fixed identity. That's what it's saying, right? That's the far right. Or the left is saying, no, we have multiple viewpoints. We're not. I mean, it's the whole point is that we're going into change. Are we willing to have change?
Huge change.
We better have change. We better have change.
Yeah.
If we want to survive to even get along with each other, we better have change. We better respect viewpoints.
So beautiful. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. I've mentioned this vision to a few other people, and nobody has gotten it the way you just did. That was amazing.
Yeah, I could see it. As you were talking, I could see it.
Amazing.
Because we're connecting there. That's where we're connecting. Just like when I'm working on people, here they are disconnected, but we're connected. Disconnected by 1,000 miles, but it doesn't matter because we're still connected.
We're ultimately the one.
Right, we're all connected, and that's right, to the one. And we're all connected, sharing viewpoints, willing to share our viewpoints. I guess that's probably one of the biggest things is somebody that I'm looking to work with, and people that are open to sharing their viewpoint. If they already come with the answer to the problem, then there really isn't any reason to come, is there? Right. I mean, there's no, you can't do therapy with somebody who already thinks they know it, what the problem is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Since you mentioned that, do you want to tell me where you want to go, but do you want to talk about the vision that you have for your work? You had mentioned that before we started recording, that you have kind of a
mainly, I guess it would, as I'm working with somebody, I'm trying to get them in contact with their unique self, right? Their identity. And so they have the vision, and it's not somebody doing it to them. They have the connection to their inner self, and they have the awareness of that flow. And it gives the idea is to give that back to them. And I'm looking to build like-minded people that are interested in improving that flow, because as they connect to themselves, their own unique gifts will come out, and they'll be able to contribute.
Yeah.
Right, by their special viewpoint. so their own gifts. So it's kind of like I'm trying to help those people get in touch with their own gifts and getting rid of the blocks and considerations they might have, attitudes, preconceived ideas that are stopping them from accessing that. They don't quite know how to get through that, but that's the idea that they're working off of. So I'm kind of looking for a community. We're looking for other people that act as a community that went to join either remotely or physically together so that we can do the whole process, so we're stronger and so we each can develop our own selves to the greatest abilities.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and what, when you agreed to be speakers on this symposium, I ask each speaker if they have a free gift that they might like to offer to people signing up, and you guys put that you wanted to offer free sessions, and we got on this call before recording, and I said no. I'm not gonna let you do that to yourself. And then we had a whole conversation about it, and now I understand better why you are offering something like that. So I don't know if you want to explain a little more about what it is you truly are genuinely wanting to offer for free, which is pretty incredibly generous. But there are limits. I want to name that.
Right.
You do have limits. But do you want to just explain a little more what you want, what you're offering, and why, what your motivation is for that? Kind of goes along with what your vision is.
I'd say it would be people that were, when seeing this video, whether it resonates with them, and whether and by that token that they've probably done quite a bit of their own work. So they aren't quite sure how to connect with the problems of the barriers and ideas that are stopping them. And like when I'm working with a person, again, it's them telling me what it is.
So you're wanting people, so you are wanting to give some free sessions, right?
Free.
And you're wanting totally
a session per individual, free session per individual.
One free session for a few people.
Right.
And you are wanting people to email you, right? Might be interested in this. And you're going to maybe make a list of people who are interested, and then over time offer.
Yeah. Well, then we'll connect and see what their goals are. When they email us, write their goals.
Yeah.
Why they think they need it.
Yeah.
What their kind of future goals might be.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So it's kind of like, are they a good match for us? Yeah. And that's why usually our first session with anybody is free. Okay. Generally because of the ideas, we all have to be on the same match.
Right.
It has to resonate with that field, because it's a matter of trust, isn't it?
Right. And then after that first session, you said that your sessions are actually by donation as well?
Correct.
So yeah, it's a very beautiful intention that you have with all of it. And also you happen, I'm guessing, to be in a financially secure situation. So you can offer like that, like unlike most of us, but that's really, really beautiful. And so again, if you wanted to say a little bit more about your motivation for doing that, like you said, you want to create this community, you want to help people elevate to be able to share their perspectives and their gifts. Is there anything else you want to say about if you were to project yourself into the future, I don't know, 3 or 5 years ahead or something?
Oh, well, yeah, it's building a community. So we have a bigger and bigger community, and everybody has their own gifts, and whether that's physical, whether it's chiropractors, massage, or something with a brand new perspective, right? People that have that idea, and so they'll be all working with each other, on each other, and then opening up the field to outside people to expand the community.
So it's kind of people that, whether they're in person or remotely, if they're not doing hands-on body work, I mean, if we could do it right now, we would. Like, we know some people that are masters at what they do, whether it's body work, acupuncture, chiropractic, therapist, people that are animal communicators. It could be, our vision is like, if you, Martha, said, wow, I'm really motivated to, step up my awareness, get rid of a lot of stuff that I know I'm carrying around, and I want to step into the world and give my gifts out there. Especially if you're a marginalized person, because we tend to work with people that, whether they're neurodivergent, queer, trauma, they've got self-awareness, but they've been marginalized by society. And so people that come in and understand, like if we wanted you to, like you might say, well, I've done therapy and I want to be part of this, and you want to work on people, and then maybe you might send somebody to us to work on this part of things, and then somebody to acupuncture, master acupuncturist. So that core community of people that can get folks the help that they need and want and are motivated to get, that's the vision too.
So it sounds like you're looking for two categories of people. One is people who are motivated and want to do the work on themselves as clients. You're looking for a community of people who would want to be clients. And it sounds like you're looking for a community of people who would want to be in this sort of community of practitioners.
Yeah,
support
therapists, right, whatever is needed.
Yeah, the people because not all of us, of course, respond to one modality, and so that would be, because we really need to step up the game. I mean, we're at a point in Earth's history, obviously, where people need to be able to step up to the plate, and trauma is what's getting in the way, or being oppressed, being marginalized. But if you have the support, then it's there you are. And you mentioned some, you met people where that's the problem, they don't have the support. And so especially the trans community, that I'm a part of, it's like finding that support is really crucial. And so so that's kind of our vision. We would have to look at what people send us email wise to see if they're a match. What is their background? The things you mentioned, David. So what are their goals if they want to get work from us?
Right. So bottom line, if people are interested in either possibly being a client and or possibly connecting with you as a practitioner, they should email you. And your email is connected with this video, but do you want to name what it is? I think it's Rev.
Yeah, it's REV, in other words, Reverend Madden, REV Madden, number 22 at gmail.com.
Yeah, and it'll be linked with the video. And there are a lot of wonderful people who are speakers who you might want to connect with. But wonderful. Is there anything else that you want to add about any of the things we've talked about? Trauma in general, trauma in the queer community. I mean, I feel like we've actually covered a great deal there, and but I don't know if there's anything that feels incomplete or unsaid that needs to be said.
It's coming to me to say that a lot of times being an oppressed group or being marginalized for whatever reason seems like a punishment and a huge burden, and it can be a huge burden. It is. At the same time, there's the group of people that are able to look at the culture from the outside, and so there's the ideas, the out of the box, that viewpoint from the outer edges.
Yes.
And and to realize, wow, you've got a gift. Your viewpoint is priceless. The culture might not make you feel like it, but I'm telling you where we're going, where we're headed, your gift, your viewpoint is going to be more and more important. And that's the love I was talking about, that queer people and many marginalized people have these gifts, and when they're supported in giving them, then there's this actual love, this unity of love that comes forth and enriches everybody. And so as we get rid of the dualistic binary viewpoints and allow in these people at the margins, then that's the healing, along with connecting with Mother Earth and the rest, giving each other our gifts.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And you had mentioned, again, what we said in the beginning, that you had said on that survey that the queer community wants to lend their voice to what our planet needs. I mean, is there anything else in particular that you feel like comes up for you around that?
Just the thing about, we dwell in liminal space. We dwell in the between. Whether we're transgender, as queer folks, we are not in the binary. We weren't born that way. And because liminal space right now is vilified, isn't that all that's all about, right? You have to either be this or that, male or female, Republican or Democrat, vaxxer, anti-vaxxer, there's everything is just whoop, polarized. And to the point where we can hardly talk to each other from the sides of the room.
Yeah.
And those of us that are in that liminal space, there's a huge reaction against us because we are there. And but that's leading forward to the unitive idea where eventually humans are going to realize they're not any of us in a box, and there's a continuum of expression, and it's all precious. So as we the reaction is inevitable. It feels like punishment, it feels awful, the polarization, and it's also inevitable. That's where our evolutionary trajectory and consciousness is taking us.
Yeah.
And in our journey to connecting up, like I was saying, where we can realize the continuum, realize the diversity, and not allow ourselves to be put into boxes anymore. And I don't know if we're going to make it, but I'm eternal optimist, and I just would love to. I hope I get to live another 10 years or 15 years to see that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know either. I do find it really fascinating to me that, this symposium came through as a spiritual directive, like a vision, an instantaneous vision that just went through my body like a bolt of lightning. And it, it's all flashed before my eyes, the whole outline and everything, like in an instant. And so my experience of it, it's not coming from my mind, it's coming from spirit or source or whatever. And I've had, that's kind of how my life has gone over the past 4 years, especially. That's a longer story, but I feel like if that's really the truth, that this is, this kind of thing is meant to come through, there has to be some kind of hope. Like, why would source or spirit world or whatever want us to do this if we're just gonna explode and die? I don't know. I mean, I don't know, maybe that there's still a point. Maybe as energy particles, we will have had an experience that was important for some reason. I don't know, but I feel like, yeah, I would assume there's some kind of hope. I hope, please, yeah, we'll be out there as energy regardless, no matter what. But yeah, wonderful. Anything else that you feel like you need or want to share?
David, did you have anything?
I think that's a pretty good summary, and Kent ends up, and then your goal. So I'd say that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
I'd say come join us.
me or them or
Anybody,
everybody.
and everybody. Let's,
Yeah,
like you say, this needs to get going.
yeah,
So we need to have this spirit of cooperation and that everybody's can bring something to the table, right? That's the whole point of it all.
yeah. And I just want to, I feel like I want to say this, like, do I say this to you on camera or off camera? But I'll say it on camera, which is ever since, David, ever since you noticed and saw the vision of mine, I've been sitting here having this literal, actual, energetic, like, thing happening.
Mhm.
Like this back, is this, what I'm feeling is this energetic up and down, like this, almost like pulleys,
Right.
clearing my crown chakra or something, my connection to source.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already extremely connected to source, and my crown chakra in general is very open.
Mhm.
But there is something going on there that is really powerful and very intense, and it feels great. But
Yeah.
anyway, I think it's not a coincidence, over here.
Right.
So
It's all a process, and that's what comes forth.
yeah,
And again, I saw that because that's what was needed, right?
yeah, it's
That was
fascinating.
what you were telling me, and that's what I told you and
Yeah.
explained it
Yeah,
as what was needed. So,
Yeah. And there we go, it's happening.
right, it's happening, exactly. Yeah, it's going back and forth. I can see it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for, I mean, I'm sure that was not, it certainly wasn't intentional for me, and I'm guessing not intentional from you, but here we are.
Exactly. So that's good testimonial right there.
Yeah, that's my point. I am very, very energetically aware of myself, and it's definitely happening, and it feels good. It feels great. So
Cool.
thank you. Mhm.
Mhm.
Thank you both so much for everything.
Thank you, Martha.
Yeah.